Cool. Hi, everyone. So I'm here today with Zoe from FAB Weddings. Um, and we are just going to be chatting about how to find the most reliable suppliers, where to look, and how to make your planning as stress-free as possible, because that's what we're all about. So Zoe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. And thank you, Catherine, for inviting me along this evening to just have a chat, really. So I'm Zoe, as Catherine mentioned. My business is FAB, and under FAB's umbrella, we have a few things going on. One being events, which is anything from event strategy and management. The second tier of the business is all to do with the strategy side, and that's more marketing and business focused, as we have been in the sector a while. So we do like to help those if we can. And then thirdly, it's all about weddings by FAB, and our community that we run under FAB Wedding Support, which Catherine is a part of as well. And yeah, the a big emphasis for me this past year has obviously been supporting our clients, but also we have seen a need to support our suppliers and also couples within the general environment who have had obviously a big shift within their businesses or a big shift within their weddings. So yeah, it's a pleasure to come on today and speak about what you need to look for with suppliers going forward and how you can make it a little bit less stressful.
That's it. That's it. Because obviously, in the past year, there's been a lot of people needing to change, and their original suppliers not always available. And some sadly have taken deposits and disappeared. And I feel so much for couples out there. But that's why we work together with people that we can trust to recommend people that are going to be reliable and aren't going to run off with your money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's great that you've if you just want to sort of talk a bit more about the last year and how your business evolved really to support not just couples but other wedding professionals as well.
Yeah, sure. So my background is within actually weddings and events. I started out over in the States on an internship, fell in love with events over there and wanted to create a little piece of magic that I found over in the States into the UK market. But back then, well, I say back then, it makes me sound ancient, but basically in 2006 it wasn't known as it is known now to start up your own business. It was quite taboo to do that, so I went down the employment route and fell into the wedding market really, because I'm passionate about what I do, and I think that's important in weddings. You have got to love them and love everything that they're about really. So I was moved a lot through the Hilton Group into a lot of properties to improve their wedding market to begin with. And with events in general, I've done over 500 to date, but predominantly a lot of that under the Hilton umbrella has been within weddings, more business events actually within my own company.
Mm-hmm.
And so naturally you take the business that comes your way when you go self-employed. And when the COVID hit, we decided to adapt because we always wanted to be multi-service. So we decided not to just offer event management, but event strategy, and in companies with that marketing and business strategy due to the various positions we've been in within employed roles and also within self-employment. We felt like we could advise correctly with some sound advice and just help people move forward. However, because my background is weddings to begin with, a lot of my network know that, and they know that I've got a very level head. They know that I cope with stress well, because if you don't, you shouldn't be in events. And that I also look at the market and the trends. I'm quite a bit of a geek when it comes to that. So a lot of my suppliers and a lot of couples were being recommended by past couples to come and speak to me. So I decided that I wanted to actually help more than anything the wedding sector. And I thought, well, how can I do that? Because I don't necessarily want to go back into wedding planning, but I am good at what I do in terms of problem solving with couples and in terms of suppliers with the advice that I'd given them over the past year. So I decided to create FAB Weddings support group, which is FAB Wedding Support. And the emphasis of that was to really act as a double-edged sword. One side is looking after the suppliers, making sure they're well informed, making sure they've got the target market audience in front of them, and making sure they have every opportunity to help their business get started again, because I know how that felt March 23rd, 2020. But also on the couple front, their kind of excitement and positivity have been taken away. And for me, that's the magic of weddings. And I wanted to try and ignite that again. So I decided that I wasn't just going to offer the community support to the suppliers. I wanted to introduce the couples as well. And it's gone really well. So yeah, 3 areas of the business. A year ago today, it was very one-dimensional. It's now 3-dimensional. And we have Ellie and the team now helping us with the content and the support within FAB Weddings support, so I can concentrate on them problem-solving appointments, them paid consultations if they need more long-term support. Obviously, we work together very well because I know you have the right skill set that they need if they need the full wedding planning. But it all starts with a conversation. And yeah, looking back now, COVID is the best thing that could have happened. And I mean that way, and I don't mean that in a way I don't see what it has done. It has been devastating. But for us, I always try and see the positive. I'm a very much a glass half full type of person.
That's it.
And even though obviously what's happened with the wedding sector and the industries and some suppliers taking the money and running, basically, is the term that I would use. The positive of that is it's got rid of the dead wood. What that means is they won't be able to do that again, because we all know within the wedding sector, once your reputation is everything. Absolutely. And once your reputation is tarnished, it's very difficult to come back from that. And people do get found out. Even if they reset up at somebody else, someone will recognise them, something will happen, general conversation, and then they'll realise that they're speaking with somebody that they don't want to be dealing with. So in a positive light, it's got rid of the dead wood. But for us, in our profession, it's been obviously a little bit like firefighting, basically making it right again for the couples, and also making sure that they're introduced and put in touch with the right supplier going forward that wouldn't do that to them if the eventuality came again with postponements or delays due to the government. But it is all looking positive at the moment following the update on Monday. So
and Boris is getting married in August, so it should be all systems go by then. got to go with that. But like you say, I love the fact that you've taken the opportunity and brought all those different elements together. It's much like what I did, obviously, the wedding planning. I think I took a step back from it as well, because it was just so painful, really, because it just wasn't happening. And I was homeschooling, and I had other things that I could focus on, fortunately. So I put my all into that, qualified as a Reiki practitioner, just did so much lockdown learning, I was calling it. So I've just expanded, did a lot of work on mindset and holistic therapies, and like yourself, bringing lots of different elements together, now able to bring that together back with weddings, which I love. Like I say, you've got to love them, you've got to love people, and you've got to love weddings. And it's perfect. It's like I say, the light at the end of the tunnel now, and it's just picking everybody up and making sure that we get that excitement back. And
because that they say, don't they, that weddings are the one occasions of your life. Some are lucky enough to do it a couple of times, but it tends to be definitely once in a lifetime occasion. And that build up is just as important at the day itself. Trying on finding the perfect dress, having the hen party, looking for your honeymoon and booking it and looking forward to it, booking your suppliers, going to taste your wedding menu, going to taste your wedding cake, going listening to your bands and your musicians, going to the wedding fairs, being like royalty. It is all encompassing of what a wedding's about. A wedding is not just the occasion itself, it's everything leading up to it, and that's why you either like a big wedding or you don't. You either like the fuss or you don't, and the majority do want it to be, even if they're not like to be centre of the spotlight, they still enjoy that build up, and that's been taken away from them. So if we can try and just give a little bit of an injection of that back, then that's my job done. That's all I want. I want these suppliers start making money again. I want them to start enjoying what they do. It's been devastating for the sector, but I want the bride and grooms to get excited again and start enjoying the build up and not being scared about what is to come. Some advice that I always give is you can always control and focus on today. You can't focus on tomorrow because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. COVID has taught us that. So yeah, 100% for me, it's just about putting that excitement back into weddings again.
Yeah, definitely. Same. Just like sending a big hug round to everybody and sprinkle some magic back. But like I say, we're getting there, and there's a lot more, I think more so than ever, so much more availability online now. People are so used to having conversations like this on Zoom that actually your options are a lot wider now, because you can still talk to people all over the UK if needs be, or obviously if your wedding's abroad, you can speak to people when it's more convenient for you rather than having to get to an office or whatever. So in that respect, that's helpful as well. And I think as well, if people have had those smaller weddings and they've had the Zoom feeds or the video feeds through to the people that couldn't make it, I've seen some brilliant videos where all the guests have been dressed up and dancing, and and then they can do it all again in the flesh.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I follow a lot of obviously wedding forums, and as you probably do, if you're in the sector, it populates your social media feed. And once I saw in America that this bride was really upset that she couldn't have any more than 6 people. So her husband to be had arranged for all the family and friends to come in the pickups and park around the property where they were getting married. And she didn't know that, and she was told to get in the golf buggy to go and have photos together, so they could literally make an occasion of what they could. They got a videographer as well, and that reaction of her seeing her best friends, and it's for me, I love seeing that, because that is making the best of a bad situation, and still keep the emphasis of you coming together as man and wife, or wife and wife, or husband and husband. So yeah, 100%, it's about giving them that big hug, bit of positivity, and getting them excited.
And that's it. There's always a way of somehow getting what you want. It might not be quite what you've envisaged, but you can always get as close as possible to that. And so it's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to being a more active member of your group.
Good.
And it's obviously can put all the links to your pages below these videos, and share these far and wide.
Yeah, I mean, for those that are listening, the difference basically between a standard wedding directory and our wedding directory, and others may do the same, is basically the suppliers that are within that community are tried and tested by myself. I have the relationship with them prior. If I've not met them, I will vet them, as the saying goes. If I can visit their premises and can obviously check their credibility, I will. If it is someone who is nationwide, then I will obviously research them, make sure they're the best fit for the directory. And that's basically what I would say is my biggest tip for anyone listening to this in terms of suppliers. It's, if you are looking at suppliers tend to be booked on either recommendation or know, like, and trust, and they've seen something on social media that's attracted to them. That tends to be more entertainment based, or more kind of special effect based, meaning anything that can make an impact that's not to do with the food and the beverage, basically. So, for example, blossom trees, additional decoration for the room, uplighting, cake, photo booth, sweet carts, mirrors, selfie mirrors, fairground attractions outside, rose petals, aisles, lanterns hanging from the ceiling, sparklers, anything like that. So it tends to be booked on visual or recommendation. However, my number one tip is please, please, please don't book a supplier on price. Great if it's a great deal, but please look at the recommendation, please look at the visuals before, and ask to speak to their customers. Or if it's through recommendation, you won't need to, but just make sure that the right fit for the right theme. And I'll give you an example of this. Is actually somebody that I know went into a wedding fair of a venue that I know and booked a photographer for £600 because they didn't want to spend the going rate for a photographer. Back then, the going rate for the photographer was anything in the region from £850 upwards in that area. Now you're looking at 1,200, 300 up. So that just shows you how prices have increased in just short of, well, it'll be 8 years actually. It was around 2013. And they booked, and I asked them over the phone, are you still at the venue? And they said, yeah. I said, do me a favour and go back and ask to see his recommendations, ask to see his portfolio of work, because I've never heard of him. And if I've not heard of him in that area, there's a reason why. Anyway, I decided to ring the venue up. And I said, hi, I'm just giving you a call, bit of a courtesy call. A couple's getting married with you. They've booked this photographer, but I've not heard of them, and I'm looking after their day. Can you give me a bit more information? The response was, oh, he just booked last minute and we had a photographer drop out, so we allowed him to exhibit. That was alarm bells for me, because I'm like, right, one is half price. Photography, never book half price photography because you tend to get half price quality, especially with photography. Second, I've never heard of him. The venue had never heard of him. And when they went back to go and speak to him, he was too busy. He said basically they didn't want to wait around for him to be available. He was talking to other people, which he's going to with that offer. On the day itself, I was actually there, and he rang up the morning of the wedding to say that he had broken his collarbone and was unable to carry out the photography and didn't have anyone he could outsource that photography to, and the money was unrefundable because it was out of circumstances of his control. He didn't know the photographer at that time that I was actually helping with that wedding, so I called back with my legalities. Lo and behold, he turned up with, I think was his grandson, with a collar brace around his neck, which would a broken collarbone, guys, he wouldn't have been allowed out of hospital. So we knew that he was lying. Basically, I had to take over the photography after the civil ceremony. When they got the photos back, there was one photo in focus, and he admitted when we asked for the money back due to poor quality and not delivering on service, he admitted that he thought the best man was the groom. And that's what a photographer should never, ever do. A photographer should be meeting with the bride and groom. And bear in mind, I mentioned I helped this wedding. It was actually my brother's wedding. So he was using me basically as a bit of checking things in. But then we all know what families are like. Brothers like to do what they want to do. They don't like to be told. And they carried on and they did it in their own way. Luckily, I was there to step in and make the best of a bad job. But that just gives you one instance that even with somebody in your corner like myself, you book, bride and groom's book on what they wish to book based on recommendation or visual. But please never, ever, ever, my number one tip is book on price. Price, if it's discounted, is a bonus at the end. Don't make that the first decision when you're booking, because it's all visual with weddings. And I can guarantee if you book on price, you probably won't be as 100% happy as you would be if you book on your own taste, on your own recommendation, and also on your own visual of how you envision the day.
That back, you can't get those moments back.
Well, You know, as well with suppliers, I have a theme within the FAB Wedding support group, and the reason I have that theme is the order that I recommend to purchase suppliers in, and photography is always in the top 3, venues in the top 3, honeymoon sometimes, entertainment, depending on the priority for the couple, it changes. But 100% F&B is your number 1 cost. Photography should be your second, and up there with the top 5 literally should be honeymoon if you want to go all out. Entertainment if you want to leave a form of experience, because entertainment can be quite costly, and dress.
Oh yes.
Your dress now, you're looking at anything from £1,000 upwards, if you go with designer collection. So it's about budgeting accordingly, because as a lot of people don't know with weddings, they might think, oh, weddings are too expensive. The reason weddings are booked normally in 18 months in advance is so they're affordable no matter what the cost. It's all about what you can budget per month to pay off for your suppliers, because very rarely does the supplier say it's full prepayment. They normally say deposit, as you know, Catherine, and then they give you 4 to 6 weeks prior, 8 weeks in some cases, to pay final balances. So that helps with budgeting. So it's about making sure that what you are budgeting per month can cover the costs for everything on the day itself. So yeah, hopefully that helps anyone listening today in terms of what they should be purchasing suppliers on, and also looking for. Also, you can also ask about insurances, if they're fully insured and they're fully compliant, and if not, again, that's a warning sign as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's brilliant, thank you. And I was just going to say, I'm going to be covering budgeting as part of my wedding wellness course as well. Be ticking off all the boxes, and checking the T's and C's, and hopefully welcoming lots more couples to your wedding groups as well as suppliers as well, to really build that community, because it's a lot more personal, I think, especially a Facebook group rather than just going on a website or directory. You've got the group, you know the people, you'll get to know who's on there. It's a really, really great resource and supportive place to be.
Thank you. And 100% just endorse that, what you said about budgeting, Catherine. It's super, super, super important. And again, it's one of my first steps. As you know, I call it get your ducks in a row. The reason being is the wedding is much more about the day itself. It's about obviously unionship and creating a life together as a unionship, whatever that unionship is, whether that is getting your own house together, whether that is putting in and starting a family for some savings, whether that is putting towards a honeymoon, pensions, you name it, it all counts. It's all something to be considered. And I don't mean that needs to take away the emphasis of the things that normally get excited about, which are the venues and looking at the venue, the perfect date, etc. But it has to be considered. And again, I'll give you another example. I was out networking. This is when I first started doing FAB. I've not done many weddings for a while. And I got a tap on the shoulder from this lady, and I turned around and she was physically in tears. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Because I was hosting the networking event. And she went, I've been told to come and speak to you. And I said, okay, what's the matter? And she said, it's about my weddings, Zoe. I didn't realise that you did weddings and I've got myself into a little bit of a pickle. And I said, well, calm down. Let's go and have a cup of tea. Anything can be solvable, don't worry. With weddings, a lot of people think it's set in stone, but it isn't set in stone until you pay the final balance. There's always manoeuvre, and you just got to check your T's and C's. And basically what she'd happened is she had a £12,000 budget for the wedding, and it was still over a year away, and she'd already spent 16,000. So she was 4,000 above, hadn't purchased everything as well, had pressure from her fiance, pressure from her parents that she was overspending. But what she'd done is she'd just seen the kind of what I call the glitter. She was blinded by the glitter of the wedding. So basically, we had a bit of a session and wrote everything down that she'd booked on everything that needed to be booked, and was there any savings that could be made. And all we had to do was ring the existing supplier saying, look, we really want your venue, but we're looking at the budget and we can't afford that option. What other options do you have around this amount? And we managed to bring it back down to 12. So we got to break even.
Yeah.
but she still hadn't booked the last few things. So she probably, I would imagine, she ended on around about 13,000-14,000. However, she would have ended on 18 to 19.
At least, yeah.
Would have said, look, I'm struggling. I've got glitter in my eyes. I'm overspending. And that sometimes happens, but budgeting helps that. If you already know what you want to spend, when you want to spend it, and how, you won't overspend. I did the exercise with a couple in the group that you might have seen with Wendy and Chris. They're getting married next May. Did that exercise, managed to make sure that they didn't overspend by 2.
Yeah.
Because they put too much in certain areas and not enough in others.
Yeah.
And then actually when they went to the suppliers, it got actually, because it was COVID and lockdown, there were some good offers available within the Huddersfield area. So they was able to get a deal, which is great.
Yeah.
Like I say, but they didn't go with that price in mind. They went in kind of recommendation in mind instead, and visual in mind. So yeah, 100% budgeting is key.
Awesome. No, that's absolutely brilliant. And I would highly recommend join the group. You know, you're not alone, whatever stage of your planning you're at. If you're having that stress about the budget or whatever it may be, yeah, come and join the FAB Weddings group, and we will help you out.
Thank you for inviting me to come along and have a chat with you all.
Yeah, thank you, Zoe. It's been brilliant, and I'm sure we will chat again soon. Okay, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.